Welcome to Good Game, your no BS insights for crypto founders.
The following episode of Good Game was recorded on February the 13th.
You know why I'm so bullish on ERC or just 404 in general? No one's talking about it. I don't see anyone really talking about it.
Yeah.
None of the investors are talking about it.
Yeah.
The tweets are like
Modular.
It's all about modular.
Yeah.
And that's great. But I think there's
Don't you think there's investors DMing ERC 44 team right now wanting to
they are,
checks?
but they aren't the ones that we would talk about on a daily basis type of investors.
Yeah.
So that's why I find this to be also even more interesting. It's because everyone's ignoring it.
Looking for your next startup idea in crypto? Check out our request for startups list and get inspired at alliance.xyz/ideas.
Welcome to Good Game. Wow, I'm looking at you and saying this. We're in New York and we're starting Alliance batch number 12. We have 22 incredible founders that are building the space. Maybe we could talk about them throughout our podcast. While in New York, we're meeting with many of the crypto native startups that are here. So it'll be fun for our founders to connect with them. But a lot's been happening in the space. As usual, we have the 404, which is very interesting. We have the ETF that got approved, and it seems like a lot of the bears are coping. We have Farcaster with growth via frames. And it's funny enough, we're seeing a lot of growth, go-to-market strategies being implemented because of frames. What else do we have? AI.
$7 trillion.
$7 trillion.
From Sam Altman sitting on the sideline.
So it seems
Tau.
like Tau.
People are talking about Tau.
Yeah. I mean, we have the, the modular thesis as well. So we have, the ag layer with Polygon. We have some of the newer DA layers that are rolling up.
Getting bid up to $1 billion valuations in the private market.
Yeah, so much. So let's start with the 404s. The 404s caught wind, and I found this to be a very interesting primitive, which ultimately preserves the composability of ERC 721 and ERC 20. And so Pandora is a startup, and those, if you haven't followed the drama, Pandora is a NFT project which implemented on a single contract in ERC 20 and ERC 721, whereby if you buy a chunk of ERC 20 tokens, you automatically mint a ERC 721. And it also works the reverse. The reason why it started to catch virality is because they named it ERC and it never went through the official EIP process within the Ethereum ecosystem. And
Great marketing.
Because if you think about it, Qiao, we've been in the space for, a decade, let's say. And fractionalization has always been a topic of mind. And we've seen many startups that have launched their own fractional NFT startups, right? So you had, I think it was Tessera, there was Fractional NFT, there was Party DAO. There are many, many startups.
There's one funded by Paradigm, right?
Tessera,
okay.
yeah, which was fractional NFT, which
right.
And
then
Andy Chorian or something like that.
Right. And then there's the flooring protocol.
There's flooring protocol.
And then
that's more recent.
Yeah. And now we have 404.
404.
Yeah.
Why is 404 so special? I think one, as I mentioned earlier, is the composability piece of ERC 20 and ERC 721. It does on a base level contract. Pandora, the NFT project, enabled it. They launched a token. And obviously between the ERC naming and the token, it instantly grew viral.
Yeah. Tokens trading at what?
$250 million FTV.
It's not like illiquid. It trades high 8 figures a day.
It's insane.
$70 to $80 million a day.
Yeah. I wonder if it it takes in the volume from NFT purchases too.
Right.
Of those that purchase the NFT separately from the tokens.
So if you look at the volume on CoinGecko, I assume it's just ERC20 volume.
Yeah.
If you add the NFT volume, it's probably not that much more, I would assume. Because it's really the fungible token that trades far more liquid than the non-fungible.
Yeah. But to me, this is a big unlock. And okay, so that was the Pandora team, right? They launched a token called Virality. And there's another group of people. There's probably 2 more groups of people that hated it.
You tweeted about it and gosh, you got a lot of shit for it.
Yeah. I mean, I just tweeted why can't we work together?
Yeah.
And I'm assuming the ETH maxis, specifically FUBAR, who replied back and was a bit harsh.
What did he say?
He just made fun of Alliance.
Okay.
So that's when you know that this is personal, right?
Yeah.
Like if you can't reply back with the...
But there's no valid criticism from him?
No.
I think he tweeted something else afterwards, separately, subtweet some.
Yeah, he subtweeted saying that, why would you give attention to something that didn't follow the EIP process?
Mm-hmm.
And everyone was like, who gives a shit? It's an unlock.
Yeah.
This is a very big unlock for the ecosystem. We've been trying to crack at this for 4 or 5 years. And in fact, hundreds of millions of VC money went into this just so this idea can come into fruition.
Yeah.
And every one of those ideas went to zero.
Right.
And so now you have 3 no-names, more or less, right? I mean, they have pretty big followings, Anons, that...
Wait, so the team behind URC 404 are Anons?
2 are Anons, 1 isn't. I talked to them.
Okay.
We're going to have them on our podcast.
Okay. And I remember one of them is a former Coinbase engineer?
One's a Coinbase engineer. The other 2 are Anon.
Okay. So they are not like... They've been probably in the space for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did they get started?
Shitcoining.
Shitcoining?
Yeah.
Okay. But how did they come up with the idea of 404?
Yeah, I don't know.
Was it just like a weekend experiment and it just went viral?
Yeah, so I read a story somewhere in one of the shitcoin groups I'm in. And I don't know if this is true or not, but apparently it was like a weekend project and they had like 1 month of runway or something, 1 month of rent that was due, that, something of that nature. And they just launched this on the whim, not thinking this was going to go viral, but just another NFT project.
And it did.
And then it just went viral.
Yeah.
And that caught the eyes of ETH Maxis.
Is Sisyphus involved?
He seems to be indirectly involved.
Yeah. There's some tweets about him owning like a few wallets of Pandora with Pandora in it.
And he's up like 750K from what I've seen.
Not bad.
Yeah. So that's why he's tweeting like his whole life depends on Pandora's. He's like, Pandora's going to be the next layer 1. You don't even know it.
Yeah. So this team is 2 Anons, 1 known person, not VC backed, probably a weekend project that just caught on with some indirect involvement from Sisyphus, and the name caught on. The 404 is a great meme.
It's a great name.
Yeah.
So it's all of it. It's just sometimes things line up so well that it just works.
Yeah. And okay, so there are some criticisms of it.
There are.
There's obviously what you mentioned, which is that they basically rugged the name, the ERC, without ever having gone through a EIP process. But what are some of the other technical...
It's not gas efficient. So you're spending more gas to burn and buy mints or to burn and mint NFTs. I think it wasn't audited.
Okay.
But now they went through an official audit process and they in fact upgraded their contracts. So now it's more gas efficient by 80%. But those were the initial criticisms. But I spoke to the team and the team told me that before they launched Pandora, they actually DM'd most of the opposing party to get their buy-in. There's a couple parties that are part of that. I don't know if it was FUBAR, but the one name that they mentioned was CGAR. Yeah, they mentioned him. They mentioned another person.
So CGAR, by the way, launched the N404 later. We can talk about it. So they're in the competing camp, right?
Yeah, they're in the competing camp. So they messaged all of them and they ignored their DMs, is what one side is telling me.
Yeah.
I haven't verified this.
Yeah. But that's normal. Like
it's normal.
You're Anon and you launch something, you DM well-known people. Like CGAR is a pretty well-known person. And so is FUBAR. You DM them, they don't reply, that's normal. You get ignored.
Those are the types of founders I like. The ones that have a chip on the shoulder, that get ignored and you try so hard.
Yeah.
And so, so they went viral. And then obviously the other group, they were upset. They didn't like the way it was launched. And so they launched their own version. So instead of having both the ERC20 and 721 on the same contract, they have 2 separate contracts and they act as like a vault.
So that's DN404?
That's DN404. Okay. So the differences are, it's a little bit, from what I gathered, was more gas efficient, secure, and that's about it. So now with this launch of DN404 and ERC404 with the latest upgrade, they're pretty much at parity.
In terms of
gas efficiency
Also, 404, the ERC 404 launched again?
Yeah, they did a
Okay.
V2
Okay.
or a V1, or they just did an update last night.
Okay.
And now both standards, or whatever you want to call it, are about at parity.
So now it's a distribution game.
All a distribution game. But here's a flip side to this. The other team, what was his name?
CGAR?
CGAR.
Yeah.
He's launching a NFT marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
So he's obviously very...
For his own DN 404.
No. This is before the DN404. So it's called Frame.
Oh, Frame. Yeah.
Frame.
Yeah.
So to me, there's obviously vested interest in as to why they should launch over the other side, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there is an opportunity to become the NFT marketplace 404.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Wasabi's building. Wasabi protocol. They've been the first supporter of Pandora. And
Explain Wasabi.
Wasabi is a NFT-backed lending margin perps protocol. So you can go long on an NFT. It's built on
You can margin long or margin short
and cross margin.
Yeah, but it's not a real perp.
It's not a real perp.
Yeah, it's not like a perp in the sense of
100x.
100x.
Right.
Binance perp. It's more, they call it a perp, but in reality, it's margin trading.
It's margin trading.
You deposit some collateral, you borrow some money, and then you trade leverage.
And then you buy the token.
Yeah.
So they're tweaking it to become more and more perp-like, decentralized in their liquidation process, etc. But yeah, so Wasabi Protocol is going to launch their own ERC 404 marketplace.
Okay.
And we're really excited about that because now if you were to buy an NFT that's linked to a ERC20, there's a price difference, right? The spreads aren't tight. So let's say you buy an NFT for 10 ETH, the price doesn't reflect the ERC20.
Yeah, so there is an arbitrage between the NFT and the ERC20.
So they're creating a much more tight spread NFT marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
And it could probably deserve its own NFT marketplace.
If 404
takes off,
really catches on,
I think it's going to take off.
Beyond Pandora.
I mean, yeah. To me, I feel as if this is a new primitive that's going to it's going to stay around for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, I feel something special there, even though the technical aspect of it is so
novel.
The technical aspect of it is actually pretty basic for me.
Yeah.
It's basic, it's simple, but it's really elegant because as a user...
Why hasn't this been done before?
That's why people are so upset about it. Like, it's so simple and no one has thought of it before, and it caught on. But as a user, you have this NFT, but you can basically list it on OpenSea or Blur and trade on Uniswap without having to do any additional work. It just works with existing marketplaces and DEXs without any additional work on putting more burden on the user or the dev. And so it just removes a massive point of friction because previous fractionalization protocols, they're all, at least to the best of my knowledge, they're all an additional layer on top of the NFT. So you have an NFT, but the user needs to do some extra work, or the dev needs to do some extra work to fractionalize it, to create a new ERC20 that's totally separate from the NFT. But this process just creates more work people.
I mean, NFTX is that way, right? They have a vault that tokenizes the actual NFTs that are deposited, but it hasn't really taken off. So you've seen some of these primitives, but it just doesn't go escape velocity because it's exactly what you said, which is it doesn't have the composability aspect of it. So it's just an extra step that adds friction. And there's security issues too.
I did see someone talk about a downside of 404, which is that it cannot do rarity. So
that's being worked on.
Okay.
So there is a way to solve it. And I went through the implementation of it and it's pretty cool.
You read the docs.
I read the docs. But yeah, there is a way. The thing, without getting into too much detail, the problem is like when you buy 10 tokens to get that NFT, you get the next available NFT. You can't go down the line to buy the rarer ones, which is the red one. You have to buy all of the NFTs until you get to the red one, right? So you have to buy the 4 green ones until you get to the 5th red one. So there's a way to solve it by like doing a flash loan, right? You buy the 4 and then you buy the 5th one, then you resell the 4 back to the pool type of thing, right? So there are ways to solve this that the average user wouldn't be able to see, but there's ways in the back end to solve it. And that's kind of like what Wasabi is working on. MetaStreet's also supporting ERC 404, right?
Yeah. I mean, in the last week alone, I know like 5 teams trying to support it. Like just not even 5 competitors, just 5 products building different things, because Wasabi is a marketplace, buying and selling, and MetaStreet is lending, borrowing. And then there's another like copy trading product that's also trying to support 404. So a lot of teams are trying to support it.
You know why I'm so bullish on ERC or just 404 in general?
Mm-hmm.
No one's talking about it. I don't see anyone really talking about it.
Yeah.
None of the investors are talking about it. Yeah. The tweets are like
modular.
It's all about modular. Yeah. And that's great. But I think
don't you think there's investors DMing ERC 44 team right now wanting to...
They are, but they aren't the ones that we would talk about on a daily basis type of investors.
Yeah.
So that's why I find this to be also even more interesting. It's because everyone's ignoring it.
I mean, the UX feels that there's something special there.
Yeah.
We'll see how it plays out.
Well, we're going to have the Pandora team, Wasabi team, and hopefully MetaStreet team come on and talk to us about how big this opportunity can get.
Oh, the thing that makes me really bullish is all these teams that are actually domain experts in NFTs, far more than me. They're all into it.
Yeah, they're excited about it.
Yeah, they're really excited about it. So I wouldn't fade them.
I would not fade builders in the space. Outside of ERC 404 or 404, the other big narrative is ETFs. I mean, obviously we've talked a lot about ETFs, but given how much exposure the ETFs have, how much exposure they put on to Bitcoin. I mean, I think they own 3%.
Who's they?
BlackRock and Fidelity.
Okay.
ETF. I believe cumulative of all ETFs that are held right now of Bitcoin, they own 3% of the supply. I saw that it was a tweet by Hildabi, who works at Dune Analytics. I shared that tweet with you, if you remember.
Okay.
3% of the supply of Bitcoin in a matter of
a month.
Yeah. I mean, that's insane. That's insane. People were so bearish ETFs. And it turns out it's probably one of the biggest catalysts in the space.
Yeah. So as of today, we've seen 13 consecutive days of positive net inflow. The first 2 weeks was like 1 day on, 1 day off. Yeah. First day was like 1.7 billion or something like that. But afterwards is...
With the GBTC drama, if you remember that, and the grayscale.
The Barry dumping on us, sorry. Some red days, some green days for the first 2 weeks. It was not clear. But as of week 2 and on, basically the last 2 weeks, almost 3 weeks now, the last 3 weeks, we've had 3 weeks of consecutive positive Bitcoin ETF inflow. And the last 3 days alone, each of the last 3 days, it was $500 million. So each of the last 3 days, we had a Michael Saylor-sized inflow purchase every day. So one Michael Saylor every day. Imagine that. And imagine if that continues. I don't know if it'll continue, but if that continues, you get like 200 Michael Saylors per year.
My God, I just hear him laughing in the background as you're telling me this.
Some people are trying to meme Michael Saylor into the first quadrillionaire in the world.
He's going to be a trillionaire.
Yeah. But as of today, everyone who sold the news at the pickle top are out of money. They're in the red because today the Bitcoin is trading at 50. The pickle top was 49. And so they're all in disbelief. And if this continues, I would not be surprised if we hit all-time high by summer.
My God. Like, I want to like dance right now.
Yeah. And the thing is, no one is prepared for it, especially the OGs.
No one is.
Because OGs are still stuck in the 4-year cycle mindset. They're still stuck in it because they've seen the same shit 2 to 3 times and they think that it's going to continue. There is a good chance, like probably 30, 40, 50% chance that this is not going to continue. There is a very good chance that we're going to see a 3-year cycle. And because the ETF pulls the entire schedule forward by 6 to 12 months.
Well, you could also argue that we're in a super cycle. Right?
don't jinx it. I agree, by the way, but don't jinx it. every time anyone says the word super cycle, it's over.
I just think of Zoo. But okay.
He was right, but he was over leveraged.
Well, the ETF itself is a shock to the inflation, right? Because you have 3% of BTC that has been accumulated by the ETFs till date. You have that's already some sort of shock to the inflation, right? That I consider that like its own halvening.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you have ETFs as a halvening, then you have the halvening.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So shortly before the ETF and after, I think Twitter was mostly bearish? It was certainly not.
They were bearish. The only person that was bullish was Ansem.
Yeah.
He was bullish.
But I think that I actually tweeted about this. I said no one can be confident about what's going to happen to post ETF, and the reason being this is not a normal sell the news, buy the news or buy the rumors, sell the news event.
ETF.
And because this is the first time you have a news, quote unquote news, with an huge external shock. So there's a shock from outside the system, which is the ETF inflow. Previously, let's say the last two Ethereum upgrades, they were all buy the news, buy the rumor, sell the news events.
Yeah.
But that was because the system was closed. People who bought, whenever you have a closed system of capital, buy the rumor, sell the news, tend to work in crypto. But this time you have a huge unknown external shock, which is outside flow from TradFi, and you just don't know how big that is.
I think it's going to get counted against gold.
And in hindsight, it's huge.
Yeah.
And everyone was wrong about it.
Because we're so used to our ways, right? I mean, we were comparing this event to the CBOE event. Yeah. I mean, that was the last major event of TradFi, right?
Yeah. People literally compared the ETF to the CME,
or the CME
futures.
Yeah. Sorry, I meant CME. Yeah.
CME futures and the Coinbase listing.
Yeah.
Both of which marked the top in the last two cycles.
But those are very, I mean,
it's very different.
Very different.
Those two events happened during peak hype. But this, right now, the ETF is happening in early innings of the bull market. It's not comparable.
Yeah. I wouldn't even say early innings of the bull market. I mean, we knew about this in the end of the bear market, right?
Yeah.
And now I feel like the ETF kind of brought forward the bull market.
Yeah.
So for those that are coping, we still have time. Just buy WIF. This is not investment advice. But yeah, this is great because now, there's a lot of new products that are coming down the pipe. And with the upcoming bull market, renewed excitement.
You know what's funny this time?
Yeah.
No one shits on Bitcoin.
They have to
respect the king. Yeah.
Don't talk about flipping. Don't talk about shit. Let the king do its job.
And the rising tide.
But you can flip ETH if you want.
But ETH will get the ETF soon.
Yeah, May, June. I think Kathy Wood was pretty bullish about that. Right?
So today, Fidelity also filed for, was it Fidelity? Or is it Franklin Templeton?
Franklin Templeton.
Yeah.
That was 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, things are looking good. And so we have the macro, right? Do you see any external negative shocks macro-wise?
Well, today there's the bad inflation print, but whatever.
What are you going to do?
Yeah. You can't predict it.
Yeah. Okay, so we have the bad inflation print.
But by the way, the bad inflation print comes from good economy, which is what's mind-boggling because people are actually interpreting the good news as bad news. So everything dumped today, not just crypto, but also NASDAQ.
Interesting. But people are probably just digesting the news and eventually I think
maybe.
Fine.
We'll see. Yeah.
Okay. You think this is bad long-term?
No idea.
Right? Oh, you don't know. Okay.
No idea.
Yeah.
Macro, who cares?
Macro, yeah.
There's nothing you can do about it.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
But I mean, I feel like crypto is in its own secular bull market anyways. Yeah. I don't think anything can stop that right now.
Yeah.
Knock on wood. So you have the macro, right? So let's say, let's forward look. We have Trump potentially becoming the president.
Mm-hmm.
Gary Gensler. Did you hear all the news about what's happened to Gary Gensler?
What happened?
All right. So Gary Gensler got hacked. You remember?
Simulation.
And they published, they tweeted live that the BTC went public with ETF. BTC went up
Yeah.
and then got shut down because it actually didn't happen. They got SIM swapped. The SEC got SIM swapped of all agencies. Okay,
Yeah.
funny. They're trying to find the guy who did it. And then soon after, like about a week ago, I saw the news that a big internal group of people that report to Gary Gensler are resigning. And the two departments are cybersecurity and crypto. So you have this kind of shock of Gary Gensler losing all the battles with the Ripple, with, Coinbase,
the ETF, Grayscale.
the ETF. Then you look at Trump, and Trump's probably not going to allow Gary Gensler to continue to operate.
You're assuming Trump is going to get elected.
I mean, 75%. I mean, there's always a chance that he won't be able to get elected.
What does Polymarket say? I'm curious.
I'm going to look at what a deck screener says about Trump. Let's take a look. Trump. So the people say the Trump token is at, so you got to look for MAGA. Okay. So 122 million FDV. And yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. So near all-time high. Let's look at Biden token. Biden. Joe Biden is at 105K FDV.
Okay, so
the people, at least on the token side, sorry, no, there's another one. So 425K FDV. So 125 million FDV versus 425K FDV. Okay, so you have the token market.
Yeah.
Now let's see what Polymarket
So
has.
Polymarket basically agrees. 53% Donald Trump, 32% Biden, 7%. Guess for who?
Haley? Michelle Obama.
Yes.
Let me see if Michelle Obama has a token.
But basically, it puts Republicans, any Republican candidate, at a higher probability of winning than the Democrats, which would be good for crypto.
That'd be very good. I don't see any Michelle Obama token.
Well, we can use.
So for those guys that are out there looking for the next shitcoin, launch Michelle Obama and pump that fund. This is not investment advice, but that's great. I mean, maybe we should talk about Polymarket and kind of the tokens, because recently you shared a tweet with me where Andrew Kang, the founder of Mechanism Capital, talked about why he's bullish Trump. He wrote like a 3-part.
Yeah, that was a funny tweet.
It was a funny tweet. Why don't you talk about it?
He tweeted why he's bullish Trump, the $sign Trump, like is it a ERC20?
It's there. I believe they're all.
I think there's also an SPL.
I'm sure. Yeah.
But he's bullish $sign Trump, and then he's like at the end he's like, here's the roadmap, and the roadmap is the Donald Trump's like trip to like every state. It's a funny tweet.
Yeah.
But
yeah, what are your thoughts?
But you and I talked about this 2 months ago, actually, before the end of last year, and we said the most crypto native prediction market is actually going to be a plain vanilla ERC20 meme coin, $sign Trump or $sign Biden, as opposed to a binary prediction market, binary traditional prediction market. Like if you go on any traditional Web2 prediction market, betting exchange, you're going to see basically Donald Trump versus Biden versus Obama in a binary or trend, whatever, like discrete outcomes, right? But the problem with discrete outcomes is your upside is limited. Mm-hmm. You bet 53 cents on Trump. If Trump wins, you make $1.
Yeah.
So your upside is limited. But with a plain vanilla ERC20, it's basically an unlimited lottery. If you buy Donald Trump, if Donald Trump wins, this thing is going to pump to like $1 billion.
But you could also speculate on all the future things Trump is doing too.
Yes. So this thing does not end at the election. It's anything afterwards.
It's a perpetual.
Yeah, it's a perpetual.
Perpetual.
Yeah, that's why this thing is so fun. And so we talked about this 2 months ago.
Yeah.
We put out our thesis.
Yes. And
then a month later, $sign Trump pumped from like $10 million FTV to like 200.
Our thesis also is that, everything will become a ticker. I wouldn't say everything, but all the major events at least will start to be a ticker.
The major trending tags on Twitter, that could become a ticker. The major celebrities, influencers,
sports teams.
Sports teams are already happening. what's it called? Chili's? You remember?
Chili's, yeah.
Last cycle.
But I feel like there could be better implementations of it. Because they're not ERC20, are they?
I think they are.
Oh, they're soccer.
Yeah,
soccer.
team.
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
they're ERC20. And they were pretty liquid last time.
They were liquid.
But they were, I don't know what it is today, but last cycle, like 3 years ago, they were basically meme coins.
Yeah.
But today they may be more like a membership coin. I don't know the details. I haven't followed, but I know that exists.
So let's bring it back full circle with 404.
Yeah.
So you have an NFT membership that gives you, okay, so people buy permanent seats at stadiums, right? So you buy a seat once a year, you spend $10,000 and you buy a permanent seat for that year. It happens at every stadium in the States. And that seat will give you access to that seat, any event, anything that goes on. So in the world, that could be turned into an NFT, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that NFT would give you access to that seat, but it could turn into also a token,
a fungible token that has a lot more liquidity than if it were only an NFT, so that you can trade basically on Uniswap.
So maybe what you could do is, and from a membership benefits perspective, maybe you won't get access to the seat, but maybe you can get access to some of the games, right? Or you can get access to some of the events, some of the merchandise, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So there are ways where the fungible token could allow more and more people to participate in an event that's only given to those that have that membership. Because, buying a Bored Apes or a Pudgy Penguin is still very, very expensive.
Yeah.
No one's it's very hard to get that out to the community. But if you have a token that represents that NFT, you get it in the hands of more people. And that's mega bullish for that project.
Yeah. Yeah. Pudgy is what, 50 now? It's higher than Bitcoin.
I'm so bullish Pudgy.
Yeah.
It hurts.
Yeah. But basically the little Pudgies are like a hack to enable people to have it to get exposed.
But eventually they're gonna be priced out too.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'm still surprised it hasn't flipped mutants yet.
It's like 10% away.
No. Little Pudgies is 50% away.
Oh, okay. I'm talking about Pudgies are
10%.
10% away from Mute Bake.
Yeah. So ERC 404 is, I feel as if it's a pretty big deal. Just got to see more implementations of it.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about Farcaster?
Yeah. Do you want to start?
Yeah. So the macro is Farcaster has been flat to little growth for maybe a year or two in terms of daily active users. And recently, probably a week ago, it went from, I don't know the exact number, maybe 10,000 DAU to 100,000.
100,000. Insane.
Yeah.
They went from 20,000 to 100,000.
Yeah. So you basically went up by an order of magnitude. I don't know what exactly led to this. There's obviously some virality, some FOMO, some people looking for farming for airdrop. I'll talk about that later. But maybe frames was one of the key catalysts. A frame is basically a cast. So in Farcaster, a tweet is called a cast. So if you tweet something out, it's called a cast. A frame is basically a cast where the user can do more than just reading the content. So the user can interact with the frame, for example, minting an NFT directly within the cast, or farming an airdrop directly within the cast, or even playing a game of chess directly within the cast. So it made a lot of noise when it came out because it's essentially the first time that third-party developers can build mini apps within Farcaster's main client being called Warpcast. So Warpcast is the client, but this is the first time third-party developers can build mini apps within Warpcast. And so that just got a lot of developers really excited. So that weekend when Frames came out, I was just scrolling Warpcast the whole weekend, trying out various different frames. And there's such a good energy from developers. And I think that ultimately, at least from, I don't know the details from the inside, but from the outside, it looks like Frames was one of the key catalysts. The energy, the excitement from developers ultimately led to a bunch of users from Twitter, from CT, to try Warpcast. And it went from 20K to 100K.
I mean, there's so much to unpack there. For me, some of the bright moments of why Frames excited me in the first place was the fact that every time I speak to a founder and I'm like, all right, what's your go-to-market strategy? Okay, tweets. Like, okay, write a thread. Okay, go and write or go talk to an influencer. Okay. Like I always felt like there was a friction to getting in front of the user because, crypto in itself is very hard to onboard. It's not easy.
Yeah.
Right. You have wallets. I mean, obviously a lot of those things are being solved. And even the pool of users, right? Like if you want to attract crypto users, you just have to go in the cesspool of Twitter and then you try to figure out where's the crypto users coming from. Whereas with Farcaster or Warpcast, specifically with the client, they're all on chain. They all have a wallet address. They're all crypto users. So you know who your customers are. And so from a go-to-market strategy perspective, it's very easy. Two is...
So let me be clear on the go-to-market. Yeah. So previously without Farcaster and Frames, if you're a project, you're a founder, you want to get some users, what you do is you find some influencers on Twitter, you ask them to shill you.
Yes.
Maybe share a link in the tweet when they shill.
Or backed by Paradigm.
Or backed by Paradigm.
Sell me this pen.
Yeah, sell me this pen. Pen backed by Paradigm. But the way it works is the influencers will shill you and then maybe they put a link, the URL back to your product. But the problem with that is when users see that link in the tweet, they need to click on it and then they go from Twitter to the website of your product. And then they need to sign in from their MetaMask.
Yep.
Then they get started. So there's like 2 or 3 steps in that whole process, which is, people are used to it, but it's long.
Well, people are used to it, but only crypto natives are used to it.
Only crypto natives. But now with Frames, if you want influencers to shill, influencers will cast your product. Within a cast, the users does not need to go to another website, connect their MetaMask, because within Warpcast, it comes with a crypto wallet natively because
it's extracted away.
It's built in because the moment you sign up to Warpcast, you connect your base wallet or OP wallet in this case. So wherever you go on Warpcast, you always have your wallet ready for you to use.
Yeah.
So you click on that frame, and then wallet is already there. You don't need to connect MetaMask, and then you can mint the NFT or buy some token directly within the frame without having to go to another marketplace. Yeah. So you basically save 2 steps for the end user, which is massive. Like even 1 step is big enough, but 2 is huge. So when Frames first came out, I actually didn't know what to make of it, but after trying Frames for a weekend, I thought the bull case for Frames was NFT minting and claiming airdrops.
Yep.
But anything that involves buying and selling of some tokens or NFTs, that is the thing that will really go viral with Frames.
I also think like tracking affiliates, right? So if you were to shill a token, anyone that buys that token through the cast could get a cut, right? So there's this virality of people that want to promote product. Like you're already seeing this happening in Web 2, right? With influencers, whereby they share their Amazon affiliate links.
Yeah, they show something on Instagram or TikTok and then people buy.
Yeah. And then there's like this affiliate list and then this is how they earn their revenue as an example. But now you have this baked into smart contracts, right? So you could get that revenue directly in your smart contract wallet. Mm-hmm. And I feel like there's some really cool ways to bring that on chain as an example. I just saw today Shopify enabled Frames, or I saw Shopify stores being able to sell merchandise through Frames, which I thought was very interesting. So even think about it from an advertising perspective. Like the other day, I was on a couple months ago. I was on Instagram, found this T-shirt. I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. Advertisement. Clicked the link, and it forced me to stay on Instagram, and the UI was pretty bad. So then I went on like Safari, and I was able to make the purchase. I'm sure it tracked it somehow. But it was pretty arduous process. Yeah. Imagine just seeing a cast and you seeing a T-shirt that you like and you just hit buy. That's it. Like so that's a 2-step process that you're saving by going through that process.
Yeah.
So you're getting closer. Like the people that are providing the merchandise or the companies are getting closer to the customer.
Yeah.
And it enables an order of magnitude better experience by doing that.
Yeah.
So if Frames is just like the MVP, right? Let's just think that that's the MVP. What does the end product look like for Frames?
Yeah. So let me share some of the things I feel Frames are not good for in order to answer your question. There are things that frames are really good for, which is buying and selling anything, NFTs, tokens, T-shirt, whatever. That's what frames are really good for. What I thought frames are not good for, and this is through my personal experience as a user of those frames, is anything that's more like just pure content based, non-financial, just a static, like a game, for example. I saw a few frames of like games.
They remind me of like TI-83 games.
The problem with that, so there is a problem. One of the problems today is the frames are too small. So when you play the game, it's just not a good experience. But that's very fixable. They can fix the frames. They can just make, like the Farcaster team can make the frames much larger to solve this problem. That's fine. But the bigger problem is you play this game, you really like it, and then 2 days later, what if you want to play again? Where do you find the frame? The frame is lost in the cast. The frame is lost in the feed. How do you go back and find the app?
Go ahead.
And so this is a fundamental problem with frames. But I think what's going to happen is Farcaster will launch a mini app.
Yes, that's
app store within Warpcast, and this is exactly what WeChat has done for the last 10 years.
Yes.
And so basically, it's there will be a permanent place where all these little mini apps are easily searchable, discoverable, that you can just click on it and play within the app itself.
So, 100% agreed.
And let me tell you this. And the reason why WeChat as a super app is such a powerful super app is precisely because there is also a wallet built into WeChat. Yep. And the nice thing about crypto is it comes natively. Any app comes natively with a wallet. So the financial stuff, you can do it much, much more easily in WeChat and Warpcast if they decide to do a mini app. Now then you say, okay, then what is the difference between WeChat and Warpcast then? Well, it's super simple. WeChat is not permissionless.
And it's not crypto native.
And it's not. The third-party devs cannot build mini apps within WeChat in a permissionless way.
Yeah.
They could get censored. They could get deplatformed.
Yeah.
But on crypto, they cannot.
Yeah. Our original thesis, if you remember the wallet episode, was the fact that of all the wallets, we were most bullish on Backpack, remember? Mm-hmm. Because Backpack was the basic idea that it could become a super app store. But the problem with that thesis, now revisiting that thesis, is the fact that XMTP standard was the biggest friction for enabling native app support to launch on the Backpack wallet, as an example, right? But our thesis was that, we are going to have a super app moment and that it's going to be something like one of these wallets, Phantom, etc. But it turns out that Farcaster, or specifically Warpcast, could become the super app for crypto. And that's pretty bullish.
So, okay, I actually been thinking about what is really the bull case for Farcaster, and this might be fairly non-consensus. I think the bull case for Farcaster is not the social network part of it.
Yeah.
It's actually the financial app, because now you have finance and social in the same app, and that enables new things such as uncollateralized lending, or some kind of crypto native Fiverr. Because the moment you know the other person's identity, you can do more things. You the moment you have trust and identity in the same place as finance, you can do more interesting finance.
So to a certain degree, the way I see Farcaster, Warpcast, well, I mean, it's trust, right? It's building a layer of trust. And so if you have people that you interact with directly, as a follower, a person that tweets or casts, there are other financial apps or financial services that you could provide or get, right? So like maybe I can just send my followers $10 each, right? They can send you money. And that financial activity is a new meta, I think, for social network. If you look at what Elon is doing with X, he's getting his MTL and MSB licenses. For folks that don't know what MTL and MSB licenses are, they're money transmission licenses within the States, money services licenses in the States. And he's doing this because he wants people to start financially interacting with people also. Yes. So not only is he paying people, right? He wants to make Twitter or X, a Web 2 version of WeChat.
Yes.
And now you have Farcaster or Warpcast that's also doing the same thing, but specifically for crypto. And I do think, if we were to fast forward a few years from now, there could be a big battle between the two.
The key difference between Twitter, WeChat versus Warpcast, Farcaster is the permissionless.
Permissionless.
Yeah.
Permissionless apps, permissionless user base, and the amount of customization that you can have, right? So we actually talked about our Farcaster in our Farcaster episode with Dan Romero. What we said was channels, right? The channels were our bullish thesis for Farcaster was that channels is going to become so big that those channels will turn out to have its own app. So they'll have their own client.
It's kind of happening with some coins, like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So each of these channels will become its own client. Those user bases will have their own like token, as an example, similar to what Reddit did with the subreddit and the tokens. And these communities will become large enough where they get to start self-funding stuff and do more things together. So like, we see what happened with Reddit and GameStop, right? Like people got together and they were able to liquidate the short seller. But imagine doing all of that within the channels. I'm not saying liquidating short, whatever, but like you could do, if you could get millions of people together, you could do a lot. They all have wallets connected. You could do some really cool things, which I think is the bull case here for those channels.
Yeah.
So you could already see like a third-party ecosystem developing around Farcaster.
Yeah. So, okay, to summarize, there's two types of permissionless innovation in the Farcaster ecosystem. One is the mini app or frames. These are basically apps within the Warpcast client. But the other type of permissionless innovation is clients that are completely separate from Warpcast.
Yep.
And that's the what you mentioned about channels and et cetera. I'll throw one last bit of just the fun stats into the Farcaster conversation. So this guy, Jason Goldberg, he launched a poll on Farcaster and asked, why are you really on Farcaster? And this was the weekend where Farcaster went from 20K to 100K. So the options are networking, building, alpha, and airdrops. These are the 4 options. And so from the lowest to the highest, 10% is building, 12% for alpha, 15% for networking, and 63% for airdrops.
It's all about
DGen's undefeated.
It's all about the Benjamins.
Yeah. And the thing is, I think Dan Romero said he's not going to do a token anytime soon, right?
No. But, every time, when we brought it up on our podcast, he didn't say no.
Yeah.
He just said, this is what we're doing. So,
yeah,
I think when the timing is right, he will do a token. We just have to wait. Exploring the super app thesis a bit more. So, frames, you could think of frames right now as just like little mini apps. And so the idea here is that it would become less social over time. And it's really going to be the apps that are going to take front and center. What would happen to, and I have an idea, but like, to me, it seems like Farcaster then or Warpcast is more competitive with wallets. So funny enough, today, there's news that went out by TechCrunch that said that Phantom flipped Coinbase in the App Store and has 3.5 million daily active users. So all-time high, killing it, right? They're offering abstraction across, Bitcoin, because I use it, so Bitcoin, so they implemented Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then Solana. So they really started to capture a lot of the user base of MetaMasks. So the question is, in the world where wallets are the window to crypto, where does Warpcast play against Phantom?
They could be directly competitive.
I think so too. I don't know by how much, because like you have to see Uniswap integrated. Like, Dan Romero has to like at least Warpcast has to become more of a super app, right? Instead of social. He's focused on building mostly, and I think the users will take him there.
Meanwhile, the wallets are also trying to become super apps.
Yeah. And so I do feel like there is a convergence going that way. Like the reason why I was so bullish Backpack was the fact that it had all of the elements. It had the social element, so you could create chat groups. And in fact, you could create chat groups based on the NFTs you held. It automatically created chat groups, which I thought was really cool. So it had that social element. It had the apps.
They're doing the exchange now, right?
They're just focused on the exchange right now.
Yeah. But they have like a huge community. They have the net. They're the net lads,
Mad Lads community. They're doing a lot of stuff with Tensor.
Yeah. What are they doing with Tensor? I know they tweet all the time together.
Yeah.
What they're doing.
They're doing like point boosters from what I remember.
Okay.
Things like that. I'm not sure exactly what the end goal is, but yeah, so they're doing a lot together. But yeah, it seems to me like the idea that you and I had about Backpack being the de facto, it's really turning out to be Warpcast.
The other thing is I think Dan said this on our podcast as well, but he said it again on another podcast recently, can't remember which one, but he said, build mobile clients, build mobile app. Like Warpcast is basically, so Farcaster they have two like enshrined clients. One is the mobile and the other one is the desktop.
Yes.
And the mobile is 80% of the traffic.
Yeah.
And I don't think we've ever talked about this, but mobile should be where crypto is going next.
We did talk about this.
We did? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, every founder that I talk to, I say, build a freaking mobile app. Like, and you do the same. Like,
yeah. Well, it depepends. Not universally, but
like most apps should be mobile and it should be very easy to use.
For me, the distinction is if you need a lot of security, then desktop. Otherwise, mobile. Because for me as a user, I wouldn't trade a lot of volume on mobile because I don't trust it. I need to trade from my hardware wallet.
Yeah, but like you can have a portion of it, right? Like, you know, just whatever your security parameters are.
Yeah,
you do mobile.
Yeah.
But yeah, I 100% agree. Like, I mean, future's mobile.
Yeah.
And so I do think that more founders should be thinking about that.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to chat about?
I looked into Tao a little bit. I think I understand enough to explain it at a high level. But Tao is it the leading AI coin right now?
I think it's the leading AI coin.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Who's number 2? Let me check coin market cap real quick. Categories and artificial intelligence. Okay. Tao is by far number 1.
What's the FDV on that?
It's 3.5. It's fully
3.5 billion?
Yeah, it's fully distributed. Meaning the supply is fully distributed. Yeah. Number 2 is Render, and then Akash. The rest, I don't really recognize them. But I know everyone on Twitter is like Tao right now is the selling point for crypto degens wanting any exposure to AI. So Tao is a cult. And I say that in a positive way.
Yeah.
Being a cult is extremely bullish in the short to medium term. Everyone is talking about Tao. Everyone that I know personally
has bought it,
but no one has been able to explain to me how it works. And that's what's bullish about it.
Yeah, I mean, like anything that's like a new meta, right?
Yeah.
Even Yearn, if you remember when Yearn first launched, no one really could explain it at the time.
Yeah.
And then slowly but surely.
Yeah. But I think I can explain Tao at a high level. So Tao it has a number, maybe I think it's 32 now, a number of subnets. So like sort of like the Avalanche subnets, but like you can also view the subnets as Cosmos zones. So they're all like separate little networks. Within each subnet, there is, to simplify things, 3 roles. There's the miners, the stakers, and call it the users.
So each subnet you could think of this as like a zone, and each zone has its own token?
No.
Okay. So then it's all the Tao token.
Yeah.
And why do you have subnets?
Okay, so the goal of each subnet is to perform certain type of work. For example, producing some output from an LLM.
Okay. So some sort of like
some
LLM.
kind of work.
Yeah. Okay.
Any compute work. But it just so turns out that how most subnets are focusing on AI related work. So each subnet can do some work. If there's 3 roles, there's miners, stakers, and call it users. The miners perform the work. So they produce the output from their LLM.
Okay.
But the miners, they compete with each other. They're not collaborative. They compete to produce the best output. Okay.
Got it.
But what determines the best output? That's the job of stakers. So the stakers evaluate. So the stakers. Is this? I think they call it the validators or stakers. Maybe it's stakers. But anyway, they stake some Tao to have some skin in the game, and they're the final judge of which miner produces the best output.
And how do they do that?
And that is the criticism against Tao. Because and Kyle Samani got a lot of shit for this But I actually agree with his criticism on paper. But the criticism is that for most such outputs, they're subjective. Like, what does it mean to be a better LLM output? So let's say you talk to ChatGPT, you ask ChatGPT,
how do you know that this answer is right?
How do you know this answer is right?
Yeah.
Like, what makes you qualified to say to be the final judge?
Yeah.
So these answers, these outputs from those miners are most, if they're subjective, and they are mostly, then the validators and or call it the stakers, they're not necessarily qualified to judge.
Yeah.
And that is the criticism. The result of the subjectivity is that, for example, the stakers, and they can collude with each other. They can collude with one of the miners.
Outputs. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the worst miners can get the most rewards. Oh, also, okay, I forgot to explain the reward. So the stakers, they determine who among the miners gets the reward.
Okay.
Because they're the judge. So if the output is subjective, then they can basically
pick whoever they want.
Yeah, whoever they want. So that is a problem. And this problem does not exist in something like Bitcoin or Ethereum because their output is very objective.
Well, it's competitive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like in the case of Bitcoin, it solves a mathematical problem, and the answer is black and white. It's either right or wrong.
Yeah.
It's deterministic. It's black and white. So it's much harder for them to cheat.
Yes.
So I don't even remember the social scalability argument from back in the day. But
Dunbar?
Yeah. But social scalability only happens when the output is objective.
Yeah.
But in the case of Tau, it is not. So that's the criticism.
Yeah.
On paper, I agree. In practice,
okay, you're a token holder. Here. Now I'm going to give you a token holder perspective as to why this thing is still running.
Yeah.
They'll solve it.
Exactly. That is the answer.
They'll solve it.
Yeah.
And once they have a war chest, they'll solve it.
Yeah. And
who are the founders of Tau?
And in the meantime, the token will pump.
Yes.
That's the problem.
So you either cope or you
join the cult.
Join the cult, and they'll solve it. So why decentralized compute, right? I mean, we talked about it theoretically, right? In the early days. And we've...
Oh, I forgot that the most important part, which is they got one of the most respected AI research firms to use Tau.
And they got paid. He got paid or something. He goes, oh my God, I think it was $30,000.
It was like, oh my God, this is so cheap.
Yeah.
To train my model.
Yeah. But he also someone got paid or something, I saw. Or maybe it was the cost.
Yeah, because
someone made money.
Right now, effectively, the cost as a user to use a subnet is being subsidized by bag holders.
Oh, bag holders, okay.
Through
inflation?
Through inflation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the idea is to compete to do the computation. People are really trying to enforce this narrative, which is like we need decentralized compute because all the compute now lives on 3 servers, right? Like Google, let's say Microsoft, OpenAI, Facebook.
And now NVIDIA. Oh, hold on. NVIDIA is local.
Local.
Yeah.
So, which I think is a good counter to the...
Great counter
to what's happening.
To the centralized AI.
So I'm actually more bullish NVIDIA. But it's not very bullish for the decentralized compute story, right?
Yeah.
But I think having more on the decentralized compute is going to be good. You could always offload some computation to Tau, right?
Yeah. I think the fundamental idea behind Tau is a competitive marketplace where you have all these miners competing with each other to produce the best output for the users. That's essentially what it is. I don't think it's necessarily about decentralization or censorship resistance. So it's more about competition.
Supply
demand. Yeah.
Yes, I do think, I mean, that's going to lower the cost, right?
Yeah.
Which is also needed in the space. But I do think there is some if the entire world's, at least in the US, all the compute happens in 4 servers, I feel like that's an exogenous risk, right?
Yeah.
I do feel like, if they have all this data, then, that could be used against you, et cetera, if it was leaked somewhere, et cetera.
Yeah.
So having data stored in this decentralized compute systems, infrastructures works, but, I think the argument you made in the early days was the fact that it's not scalable, right? Do you still think that's true? Or
what's not scalable?
Using decentralized compute. or speed, or I forgot what was the argument you made in the early days.
That's a separate product. There was a criticism against decentralized GPUs.
There you go, decentralized GPUs.
Yeah. So the idea behind decentralized GPUs, but that, by the way, that's different from Tau.
Well, I mean, you still need GPUs to compute, right?
Yeah, but in the case of Tau, that Tau abstracts away the GPU part. Tau is a level of abstraction above because the Tau network deals with the miners. The miners in turn deal with the GPU. So Tau does not directly deal with the GPUs.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah. So Tau is kind of elegant in that sense because it
abstracts away the GPUs.
It does not need to deal with the GPUs. So in the previous, decentralized GPU network discussion, there is a criticism against it, which is that if, as a consumer, you contribute your GPU to this network to perform work, most consumer-grade GPU is probably not suitable for training super large models. They're not homogeneous because your GPU is different from mine, and it's also remote. Like yours has a latency from mine.
Yeah.
Just the latency, the communication between your GPU, because to train a large model, you need a number of GPUs working together.
Yeah.
A huge cluster of GPUs, ideally in the same location.
Yeah.
But your GPU is not in the same location as me, so the latency is a huge problem.
And so finding that GPU that is similar is also going to take time, right? And then being able to compute in parallel is also especially if they're all over, could be an issue because maybe the hardware shuts down. Then they got to find a redundant GPU. So okay.
So okay, but that's the criticism against decentralized GPU network. But Tau is not that.
Tau is a validator, and so the validators handle the GPUs, but
the miners.
The miners. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what's sort of elegant about Tau.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So maybe there is a bull case.
Again, NFA. I don't know whether or not Tau will actually work. I'm just putting out the cases, both for and against Tau working, but the token will pump.
Okay. So you're
NFA.
So you're long. You're not long yet.
Yeah, maybe.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very expensive. It's $2.5 billion.
Yeah, 3.5.
Yeah. Need to find a shitcoiner.
Yeah. But Ansem said it's going to go to 100. One of these AI coins is going to go to 100 this cycle.
Please don't. Oh my God.
I tend to believe him.
Yeah, he can meme anything to existence at this point. WIF. Did you see the WIF hat on the bull?
I didn't see it yet. I didn't go to the bull.
Well, I don't think it's on there anymore.
Okay.
But I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
I mean, WIF is this cycle's Dogecoin. I'm still very bullish.
Okay. Let me play the devil's advocate.
Yeah.
WIF screwed up with the unit bias.
Yeah.
So it's currently trading at 40 cents.
Yep.
The $1 is a good meme. It's a good target.
Yeah.
DJs are gonna make it happen. But after $1, I think it's where things get a little bit more dicey.
So I hear you. I understand your concern. I think it just depends on where it's going to go. I mean, if you just get enough people buying it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
As long as the token. I mean, same argument can be made for Tau. I mean, it's $450.
Yeah.
But if the price keeps going up, people keep buying. So it just needs to have the self-reinforcing story. So as long as it has a self-reinforcing story, then I think it's fine.
Yeah.
But once that story breaks, then it's over.
Yeah.
But why I'm more bullish is because people find it funny. I was sharing it with some of my family members. My mom's like, "Oh, this is funny.
Cute. Yeah.
It's funny."
Yeah. I mean, I got into WIF because I showed my wife 20 different meme coins and NFT collections, and she laughed so hard at WIF.
Yeah. I got into it.
That was 3 cents. That was 10x ago.
Yeah. I got into it because I was sold too early on Bonk and I was coping. And then I saw WIF and got it at 1 cent.
By the way, this
0.01.
This psychology just happens every cycle. So basically, a lot of people who got into ETH in the early days are those who missed out on BTC. Yeah. A lot of people who got into Solana are those who missed out on ETH, and so on and so forth.
It's a self-reinforcing.
Every cycle.
Hope it never ends.
Yeah, never ending.
Okay. So last bull market, it was all DeFi, right? And maybe NFTs, right? Those were the two metas. If you want to make money, those were the two metas that you had to participate in.
Yeah.
But holy shit, the metas have increased 10x and I can't keep up. You have GameFi, right? You have NFTs, then you have 404, then you have social with friend tech, fantasy, DeFi again. You have
and the whole modular versus
modular thesis, Celestia,
DA,
meme coins going
restaking,
100x. Like the opportunity is ripe. Like I don't think maybe we'll always get this. Like I'm not saying we won't, but this type of innovation in all of these different sectors seems like one of those once in a lifetime opportunities to me. Like the amount of airdrops that are dropping. I mean, like I don't know if we'll see this amount of like activity that we will in next cycle. No doubt we will, but every narrative is emerging because I feel like we're at the cusp of actually solving UI UX to get consumers, right? Like you have Farcaster working or Warpcast, Phantom becoming trumping Coinbase, making it easy for people to buy and sell, Coinbase with Base. I mean, all of these things are just starting to work. So the question is, with all these metas that are starting to form, well, one is like, which metas are you most excited about? I'll tell you some of mine, but yeah, I'm curious on yours. And what advice would you give users that should focus on these types of metas?
You mean traders?
Or traders. Users, traders, airdroppers,
farmers,
degens, pioneers.
I'm just curious about everything. I'm such a generalist. Yeah. I cannot spend too much time on an individual vertical. I need exposure to everything. I just get excited about everything. Yeah.
Did you buy Pandora?
No.
Okay. We'll need to get you some Pandora.
I'm coping so hard on the sideline. But I also understand that it's pretty much impossible to keep up. Yeah. I'm just at peace with it. I'll learn a little bit about everything.
Yeah.
But there are a few sectors that I spend a little bit more time of my time on. I really like payment, RWA.
Yeah.
As you know.
Yeah.
I like the other extreme of the spectrum, which is the degen SocialFi or you know, the friend tech of the world. By the way, friend tech is not really happening, but something will happen in that world. Oh, Sisyphus actually tweeted about it today.
Yeah, like he's like no social token to trade.
Yeah, the market needs social. The market demands a SocialFi token.
Yes, I do too.
Yeah,
and so friend tech. Yeah, so we could talk about that, but
yeah. But I really think most of these verticals are crypto native.
Yeah,
they solve crypto native problems, but payment and RWA are the places where crypto is actually changing the world, especially in emerging markets. There's pent-up demand. Let's talk about Chinese stocks. That's really funny because Chinese stocks has been going down for a year.
It's down only.
Yeah. And
well, didn't there like something happened for this to happen? I forgot. I was following the news, but something happened that led to their all-time low.
It's just sentiment is really bad. Like Chinese stock market is super retail driven. It's very similar to crypto actually. If it goes down, then it'll keep going down. And vice versa. But the reopening from COVID end of last year was a disappointment. The economy didn't really pick up as much as people expected. And then there's a lot of FUD around the real estate, deleveraging. And then there's, you know, the FUD is now both Chinese and in the West.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what's so bearish.
Twitter's hilariously negative towards Chinese stocks. And by the way, that's how you know into ape.
That's when you
if you want to buy Chinese stocks, it's now. Yeah. But the reason why I'm mentioning this is because China needs US stocks because Chinese retail have been hurt by the shit for like 10 years. So Chinese economy has been up only for the last 10, 20, 30 years. But the stock market is basically flat. And so they need
more bag holders.
They need more bag holders. And the Chinese retail, they look at their own stock market and they look at the US stock market. They're like, what the hell is going on? And say to themselves, I really need US stocks. And this is where something like RWA actually changes the world.
I think the case for RWAs is just UI UX.
No.
Because hear me out. Hear me out.
Yeah.
Once you have these products on chain, they're easily accessible by anyone. which increases the rate of distribution and the user base. Because now you can market this product globally to any user, so as long as they have an on-chain wallet.
Mhm.
So I feel that is like one of the key reasons why RWS is going to work well. What's the reason?
I just wanted to mention that the biggest challenge.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
It's legal.
Oh yeah,
It's legal.
Yeah.
So basically, how do you make the U.S. stocks tokenized on chain and available to Chinese retail without
KYC.
fucking with a CCP?
I mean, they should be happy. I mean, like you're getting more bag holders. I mean, you're extending U.S.'s economy to the whole world.
No, the U.S. is happy, of course.
Yeah,
But the Chinese government is not.
They can't stop anything. I mean, what a firewall? Like, I mean,
No, but they can go after the founders
the founders of what?
of the RWA project.
Yeah, but I mean, if they're here in the States, then what are they going to do? I mean, you can't stop on-chain activity, right? That's the permissionless part about why I'm so bullish on RWA is like they can just spin up a firewall and just like ape into something and that's it. Go along on and
Okay, there are two governments.
Capital control risks, right?
there-
So
As a person, not even as a person, there are two governments in the world I would not fuck with,
the U.S.
regardless of where I am, as the U.S. and China.
Well, but let's put this to the side. You know this is happening, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when I was in Malaysia, I was staying at my friend's condo or whatever. And my friend's like, yeah, like a lot of the people that buy property here are from China.
Mhm.
Because, that's a way to diversify their risk, right? I'm like, oh, interesting. And so I heard this in Seattle. I heard this in San Francisco. And so like, there's this, obviously the appetite for real estate is largest amongst Chinese, like in India it's gold, in China it's property.
Yeah. And the common thing between the two is something real that you can see.
Something real.
Versus in the US, people want something virtual, like a stock that you cannot even see.
Yeah. So I guess where I'm getting at is like, if they can find their way into buying property, I'm sure they can find a way to buy RWAs. Is the idea or the thesis.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm bullish.
I am irrationally bullish, rationally and irrationally bullish about RWAs, and it's still so non-consensus right now.
So non-consensus.
I know it's non-consensus because the private market valuation is like 2 orders magnitude lower than modular this, modular that.
I feel like the modular is just too much FDB. Like, I mean, if you look at Celestia at 18 billion or something, but who knows? I don't want to talk about the irrationality of crypto because me being in crypto is already irrational.
Yeah.
Well, so some of the things I'm very bullish on is, as you mentioned, social. I'm very bullish on social. Anything that has to do with touching anything to add some sort of speculative layer on top, right? So whether you're streaming a video, right, whereby you're watching a TV series and you want to bet that the guy at the end is going to win the series, whatever it is. So you could buy a token.
Yeah.
Right. And you go along on Herald. And at the end, if Herald wins, then you go up, right? So the speculative layer, I feel as if it's going to sit on anything that has to do with media. It's going to sit on top, right? And it's a very dystopian world that we're heading into, by the way. Cat CL talks about this often, which is that the world is just going to become more gamified. Funny enough, there was a Super Bowl, someone released a Super Bowl statistic where 64 million Americans watched the sport and 23 billion people, or $23 billion was gambled for that sport. So you have this, right? And everyone is just gambling to get rich because we live in this world of such a disparate world of like rich and poor, right? And the poor just will do whatever it takes to make it, right? And so gambling is becoming a very big opportunity.
Yeah.
And if you notice also, Twitter or X also is integrating gambling to X.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. They just signed a deal with some gambling company. So you could gamble on Twitter.
Oh my God.
As an example. So that's the narrative. I mean, that's the world we're heading into.
Yeah. I mean, CT is basically a microcosm of that.
Yeah.
Like with all the airdrop farmers, all that degen energy.
Yeah.
Like you see that.
So
you can feel it.
You could feel it. So speculation is going to become, I think, like speculative layer on top of all media is what I see. Yeah. SocialFi is another great example. I'm also bullish on new like NFTs. Like the 404 is a specific example of becoming more widely adopted all across the world. I don't know how that will happen, but like 404 is a step in the right direction, where I think every person in the world will have some sort of NFT or some sort of token that gives them that representation of that benefit of the NFT holder. So I see that. DeFi, like I think DeFi I'm less bullish on. I mean, obviously okay, I take that back. I am bullish, not as bullish as all of the other metas that we talked about. Hayden Adams sent out a tweet about a week ago, and he said 75% of the users that downloaded the Android Uniswap wallet came internationally, which, was our thesis, right? Like the global, like Asia, India, China, like parts of this world that just want to speculate, they'll be able to just download a wallet and use it. So I feel like trading will become like as part of DeFi. The lending, borrowing, I'm not.
There's an interesting segue here.
Okay.
Because so Uniswap is what, like $3 billion FTV, maybe $6 billion FTV. Yeah. And I think in most people's mind, Uniswap's value accrual comes from the protocol. I think it's the opposite. I think Uniswap is valued that much, not because of the protocol, but because of the front end. So Hayden, in that tweet, he actually talked about how much work he did in the last few years to expand the distribution, like building the mobile wallet, just improving the front end, desktop and mobile, blah, blah, blah. And so I think Uniswap is commanding such high valuation simply because there is a lot of users.
Yeah.
The token valuation basically is mindshare. And mindshare, in this case, is Uniswap users. And so this is also interesting segue into Jupiter. So Jupiter launched 2 weeks ago and is trading at around the same valuation as Uniswap, has been trading like 50 cents, 60 cents, obviously very, very volatile. And interestingly, Jupiter today, the aggregator where most people use, it does not have a underlying protocol behind it. It's purely a front end. Well, there's probably some, but Jupiter does not have their own DEX protocol. So Jupiter sits on top of Radium Orca, for example.
Radium Orca, Matora, Phoenix.
Yeah. And Jupiter is able to command a valuation that's 10, 20x higher than the underlying DEX protocol. And I think ultimately the reason for that is because, for example, if you look at data from Dune, you analyze the volume in dollar amount that goes through Jupiter versus the dollar amount that goes through the front end of Orca and Radium.
Yeah.
Jupiter is like 80% of the market share. Yeah. And this is another data point that tells me, again, it's the front end that's ultimately responsible for value accrual.
Agreed. And I think that could cannibalize competitors, right? So an example of this is, it's funny, like if you look at Ethereum as an example, that was the DeFi meta where it started. It was Uniswap, DYDX, 1inch, Matcha, and they're all very separate. They're just completely different products, completely separated. Nothing, they don't compete with each other. They're very siloed. Now, if you look at Jupiter, everything is integrated, right? So you have, like, at least for Jupiter, you have perps, and they do, I forgot the volume, but they do a lot of volume, probably in the billions. You have swaps, you have now the token launchpad. Mm-hmm. And so I guess the question then is, like, will this be the trend moving forward? We're seeing this with Sui.
It's been happening for 2 years. Yeah. Like we predicted this 2 years ago that all DeFi is going horizontal, competing with each other, launching a bunch of new products. Uniswap is doing it. Uniswap is swap, but also they launched NFTs.
They did. I don't think they're getting a lot of.
I don't think so either.
They're not getting a lot of.
But everyone is trying to do
Everyone's competing with each other.
Every app that has any sort of product market fit, once they've dominated one niche, they're going to go somewhere else.
They have to. Yeah. They have to.
Interestingly, a lot of Solana founders feel threatened by Jupiter.
Oh yeah, 100%.
As they should.
They should.
Yeah.
But there has to be ways where they can co-op, right?
Even on Swin and Aptos, the
aftermath.
Some of the leading aggregators and DEX protocols, they also have a liquid staking product.
Yeah.
On the same website.
Yeah.
Everyone is trying to do more than one thing.
They have to, because to me, it's just from a UX, like, Mark Andreessen talked about this probably 10 years ago, which is that every phase of technology will go through bundling and unbundling period. So bundling is when, it's harder to get users, right? And you want to make it simple, right? Once you bundle, then it turns out that, there's better niches, better opportunities, more value accrual. Maybe the customers need something more different. Then you go to the unbundling. And then so we're going through this phase right now. And I feel like we're going into the phase of bundling, which is the fact that people just want to get access to the stuff. They don't know how to use it. It's hard. Just give me one window where I can just ape, right? And so I think that's where we are right now, is the bundling. We will probably get into the unbundling phase. I don't know when that is, but I think it's probably when users become much more educated about crypto and they understand what are the different types of opportunities, and then they'll start to get off and use something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about Aptos and Sui because I've slightly changed my mind.
So wait, in what sense?
I've always been skeptical of new chains, always, just by default.
But we weren't skeptical of Move or Sui.
I wasn't bearish.
Yeah.
But I just don't know where I can, when they launch, I cannot tell my audience, hey, I'm fucking bullish and you should buy.
Yeah.
But I'm not bearish either. I'm just neutral and just more of a let's wait and see kind of mentality. But last few months, there's several data points, empirical data points. So Bluefin
is the derivatives protocol product that launched that has 80% share on Sui. And they were also Alliance batch number 5.
3, 4, or 5. Yeah. One of the earlier batches.
Yeah.
So they went on Sui.
Yep.
From, what was their?
Arbitrum.
They were on Arbitrum. And now they're on Sui.
Yeah.
That's one really interesting data point. They're one of the OG DeFi protocols.
Yeah.
The other data point is Solana.
Yes.
So Solana is the leading lending platform. One of the leading, I don't know the exact number now, but one of the top 3, let's say, lending platforms on Solana. They recently announced that they're going to Sui as well as Suiland. So already you have 2 very strong teams, OG DeFi protocols going on Sui. That's really, really interesting as a
Sui.
For Sui. Yeah. That's really interesting for Sui. And at the same time, you see the TVL skyrocketing for the last few months. There's probably some token incentive behind it.
So I can tell you the token incentive.
Okay.
So Sui is paying incentives to different projects.
Yeah.
For derivatives specifically, they're paying between 100 to 200 Sui tokens every 2 weeks.
100 to 200?
Yeah, depending on the product, but on average, 100 to 200,000 Sui tokens every 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's the number that I got. Okay, I got a similar number from the Aptos.
Okay. So they're doing the same thing.
I think Aptos and Sui are doing something similar. But then again, this number, 100K.
But here's a crazy story. Those startups that we talked to, no one wanted to invest in them. So in order for them to stay alive, because they told me that every investor said no.
Interesting.
And in order for them to just stay alive, bare bones minimum was a Sui token.
Okay. I think most investors are still ETH maxis today.
I think you're right.
They haven't.
Well, no, they're starting to open to Solana now because now I'm seeing
and they're exactly. They're opening to Solana, but they cannot.
But it's too late. I mean, it's not too late.
For the obvious ones, it's too late. Like for NFT marketplace or aggregator, that's too late. But I think most investors can't appreciate why high performance high throughput parallel computing chains are such a big deal. I don't think they really appreciated it. And that's why I'm very open to the possibility of Aptos and Sui both taking off, maybe one of them, maybe both, in addition to Solana.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, for shits and giggles, if you want to replicate all of the world's compute transactions on the internet, on chain, you need more than one chain. I mean, there's just no way. I feel as if most of the chains that are popular today will have some sort of product market fit in the future.
Yeah.
I could be wrong on this, or at least in the short to medium term. Long term, if the apps get too big, they have to have their own chain, their own. Funny enough, I was talking to the Hyperliquid guys, and I think we should bring them on because they're doing something very novel.
Perp?
Yeah, so they're doing perps, right? Yeah. So they launched on a Tendermint consensus right now. So
their own chain?
Their own chain. They realize now that, so it's an app rollup, right? App chain. They have they forked Tendermint, so they have a Tendermint consensus. And now they're at a point, and they grew. In 8 months, they got 200 to 400 or so. They're doing almost $1 billion a day in volume.
Crazy.
2 to 400 in TVL in 8 months. And now they realize that the consensus that they're using is the bottleneck.
Mm-hmm.
So they're redesigning their own consensus.
Yeah.
So they have their own layer one, their own consensus that's specific to the product itself.
So they're not using Tendermint, Cosmos Tendermint anymore.
No.
Yeah.
They're moving to. So I think the world that we're going into is that every app is going to have whatever is going to work the best for them.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, I don't know if it's bullish, bearish, or whatnot, but I think that's the move they made. I've never heard of that. I'm like, oh, wow. They're like, I want our customers to have the best and the fastest transactions.
They're essentially rolling their own chain, layer one.
Completely net new chain.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the world we're all headed into.
Yeah.
And maybe all of the stuff here, Arbitrum, Polygon, Solana, doesn't matter. I don't know. Maybe they're all canary chains. I don't know. Just joking. But, that was a very interesting signal to me. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. All right. Well, I think we'll leave it at that for your mind to wander a bit while our minds wander too. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Hit subscribe if you haven't. We'll catch you guys soon.
Thank you.
As always, the views expressed in the Good Game podcast are personal to the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of any other person or entity. Nothing here should be construed or relied upon as investment, legal, tax, or other advice. Thanks for listening to Good Game. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next week.